42. Genesis 42. Up till now, in the last couple of chapters, we've been talking about mainly what one man? Joseph. Joseph has been taken captive down into Egypt. His father was down here near the Dead Sea in the south part of Canaan. And Joseph was sold and traded over here into Egypt, which is in Africa. So he's pretty far away from his brothers. He's pretty far away from his dad. And if you remember, he got into Potiphar's house, and then he got thrown into prison. And then at the end of the story, that butler was reminded of Joseph interpreting his dream. So Joseph goes and interprets Pharaoh's dream and says, you're going to have 7 years of plenty and 7 years of famine. Save up during the 7 years of plenty, take an extra tax, and then during the 7 years, we'll be able to distribute that extra corn and feed people during the 7 years of famine. So look at 42, verse 1. Now, when Jacob, who's up in Canaan, when Jacob saw that there was corn in Egypt, Jacob said unto his sons, why do ye look one upon another? There's 10 boys right there. Why do ye look one upon another? Or maybe even 11. I don't know if Benjamin was a part of it. I guess they were just looking around at each other. What are we going to do? Hey, buddy, what do you think we're going to do? I don't know. What do you think we're going to do? Why do you look one upon another? Hey, we wouldn't be in this predicament if you would have done the work like Dad told you. If you would have been more diligent with the flocks. Well, what about you? You were over there hanging out with Sally while you should have been taking care of the sheep. You know how brothers get. They were looking one upon another. Jacob says, why do you look one upon another? Verse 2. And he said, behold, I have heard that there is corn in Egypt. Get you down thither and buy for us from thence, that we may live and not die. This is a famine. You and I have probably never dealt with a famine. We had I don't know if it was a famine, but my grandma, and I'm sure a lot of your parents and grandparents lived through the Great Depression, and that's scary stuff. When it was hard to find food, when a grown man might live off of a half bowl of potato soup for a whole day's work to make sure his family got fed, and he just took very little. Plenty of stories. My grandma, her husband, on my mom's side, her husband was a grocery store owner, and they had plenty of money. And my mom said she was the most frugal person she'd ever met. Most of those people who went through the Depression were savers and hoarders, and they wouldn't spend $5 on a soda. They would do everything they could to save money, even if they became wealthy, because they learned it's not always going to be prosperous. Just like that, all the food that you enjoy and all the drinks you enjoy can just go away. And it's true today. Famine can come just like that. There could be a war that just totally shuts our country down. There could be an economic crash that shuts our country down. There could be some pestilence that the Lord sends locusts into the United States for the first time. We could have wildfires, whatever. This war with Russia brought us pretty close to a famine. Russia pumps out something ridiculous. I forgot the number, but it's like a third of the grain or the wheat for the whole world. And with this war, that could have just shut down your and my wheat. So there goes your bread, there goes your cereal, there goes your oatmeal. Famine can happen quick, and it happened right here. And it was such a bad famine that it was, you guys need to go somewhere else and buy food, or we're going to die, because there's no food here. And Joseph's 10 brethren went down to buy corn in Egypt. But Benjamin, Joseph's brother, Jacob sent not with his brethren, for he said, lest peradventure mischief befall him. Why do you think Jacob didn't want Benjamin going down into Egypt with his brothers? He lost Joseph already. He didn't want to lose Benjamin. What's special about Joseph and Benjamin?
They were from his favorite wife.
Those were Rachel's two sons. Those were his favorite little boys from his wife that he loved, and he didn't want to lose the other one. And the sons of Israel came to buy corn among those that came, for the famine was in the land of Canaan. And it says, among those that came, so all kinds of people from all around the world were going to Egypt to buy their corn. And Joseph was the governor over the land, and he it was that sold to all the people of the land. And Joseph's brethren came and bowed down themselves before him with their faces to the earth. Uh-oh. What do we have here? A little comeuppance? That should remind you of the dreams that Joseph had when he was a younger boy. What happened in the dreams? There were sheaves, like wheat, gathered together, and what did those sheaves do to Joseph? They bowed down. The stars of heaven bowed down to Joseph. in his dreams. And what's happening here? There we've got 10 brothers bowing down to him. And Joseph saw his brethren, and he knew them, but made himself strange unto them, and spake roughly unto them. And he said, Whence come ye? And they said, From the land of Canaan to buy food. And Joseph knew his brethren, but they knew not him. And Joseph remembered the dreams which he dreamed of them, and said unto them, Ye are spies, to see the nakedness of the land ye are come. So he decides, I don't know if he's just bitter against them, or if he just is being a brother and wants to mess with them a little bit, but he's going to keep himself hidden. They have no idea who this guy is. And remember, for more than 10 years, he's been stuck in the land of Egypt. And I don't know if you know anything about Africa, but the sun's a little hotter down in Africa. His skin might be a little darker. His clothes, I'm sure, are very different. He probably has an Egyptian hairstyle. I don't know if they wore any kind of makeup or face paint, but he didn't look like their little brother Joseph anymore. He was a grown man, and he looked like an Egyptian. They didn't recognize him. And they said unto him, Nay, my lord, but to buy food are thy servants come. We are all one man's sons. We are true men. Thy servants are no spies. And he said unto them, Nay, but to see the nakedness of the land ye are come. And they said, Thy servants are 12 brethren, the sons of one man in the land of Canaan. And behold, the youngest is this day with our father, and one is not. Who are they talking about there?
Joseph.
Old Joseph. You know what they could have said? We sold one as a slave. No. They didn't tell on themselves. They just said, one is not. They didn't want to incriminate themselves there. And Joseph said unto them, That is it that I spake unto you, saying, Ye are spies. Hereby ye shall be proved. By the life of Pharaoh ye shall not go forth hence, except your youngest brother come hither. Send one of you, and let him fetch your brother, and ye shall be kept in prison, that your words may be proved, whether there be any truth in you, or else by the life of Pharaoh, surely ye are spies. Why do you imagine he might have wanted to see Benjamin? Why do you think he wanted to see his brother? Think he was curious whether they had killed him too, or sent him into slavery too? Well, they lied about me. They said he is not. They sold me as, they knew I'm not just dead. They know what happened. I wonder if they did the same thing to Benjamin and they're just not telling me about it. I want to see my brother. I want to know if my only full-blood brother is alive. Send one of you and let him fetch your brother, and ye shall be kept in prison, that your words may be proved, and whether there be any truth in you, or else by the life of Pharaoh, surely ye are spies. And he put them all together into ward 3 days. And Joseph said unto them the third day, This do and live, for I fear God. If ye be true men, let one of your brethren be bound in the house of your prison. Go ye, carry corn for the famine of your houses. But bring your youngest brother unto me. So shall your words be verified, and ye shall not die. And they did so. And they said one to another, We are verily guilty concerning our brother, in that we saw the anguish of his soul, when he besought us, and we would not hear. Therefore is this distress come upon us. You just got a little piece of light on the story that you didn't have before. When Joseph was down in that pit, and his brothers were thinking about selling him to the Ishmaelites, we didn't know what he was doing down there. And right now, we find out while Joseph was down in that pit, his soul was in anguish. He was afraid for his life, and he besought his brethren. Come on, guys. Guys, come on. You know, the first hour, it might have been, guys, come on. 6 hours into it, it might have been, come on! God! You know, it got worse and worse. His soul was angry. I'm going to die. Are you guys going to kill me? Somebody help. One of you guys, please. One of you have a heart. Somebody, please come and help me. And they sat there and listened to that, and they decided to do nothing anyways. And they're saying, we wouldn't hear, therefore is this distress come upon us. God's punishing us for messing with our brother the way we did. And Reuben answered them, saying, Spake I not unto you, saying, Do not sin against the child, and you would not hear? Therefore, behold, also his blood is required. You know what he just said in modern terms? Told you so. Didn't I say so? Verse 23, And they knew not that Joseph understood them, for he spake unto them by an interpreter. And he turned himself about from them, and wept, and returned to them again, and communed with them, and took from them Simeon, and bound him before their eyes. Then Joseph commanded to fill their sacks with corn, and to restore every man's money into his sack, and to give them provision for the way. And thus did he unto them. Notice that when they stood there, it says he pretended like he couldn't understand the Hebrew language, right? They were speaking Hebrew, and he spoke to them He spoke Egyptian and had an interpreter talk to them. And when they sat there right in front of him and said, we shouldn't have killed Joseph the way we did. We shouldn't have dealt with him that way. We let him sit in that pit. And then Reuben speaks up and says, didn't I tell you we should have not messed with him? You wouldn't listen to me, and now God's going to bring his blood on us. And Joseph's standing there. I don't know if you've ever been through something harsh, through real family trouble or through a real traumatic incident, but 10, 15 years down the road, if you're hearing about that from your brothers, you're probably going to turn around and have a tear or two to deal with. This might be something that Joseph kind of kept in his heart and has been dealing with. Maybe he has nightmares about it. Maybe he cries about it every night. I don't know, but it brings up some emotions in Joseph, and he turns around and has to weep. It's a hard thing that he's dealt with. And then he tells his brothers, well, I'll send 9 of you back, but I'm going to keep Simeon. And Joseph commanded to fill their sacks with corn and to restore every man's money into his sack and to give them provision for the way. Thus did he unto them. And then he laded their asses with the corn and departed thence. And as one of them opened his sack to give his ass provender in the inn, he espied his money. So Joseph made his servants put all the money back into their sacks. They came with money and said, please give us corn, we'll give you money, right? Joseph turned them around and secretly sneaks their money back in so that when they're on the way home, one of them pulls out a little provender for his donkey and sees money and goes, yeah, that's supposed to be with Joseph. What's that doing there? And they fear for their lives. And they already feel like they're in trouble. They didn't get corn for free. Now they've got to bring their brother Joseph back. And verse 28, and he said unto his brethren, my money is restored, and lo, it is even in my sack. And their heart failed them, and they were afraid, saying one to another, what is this that God hath done unto us? So they finally went home. They saw Jacob, and they tell Jacob what happened to him, right? And I'm going to skip over some of this just for sake of time. They tell Jacob the whole story. And verse 36, Jacob their father said unto them, me have ye bereaved of my children. Joseph is not, and Simeon is not. And ye will take Benjamin away. All these things are against me. And Reuben spake unto his father, saying, slay my 2 sons, if I bring him not to thee. Deliver him into my hand, and I will bring him to thee again. And he, Jacob, said, my son shall not go down with you, for his brother is dead, and he is left alone. If mischief befall him by the way in the which ye go, then shall ye bring down my gray hairs with sorrow to the grave. You guys are going to kill me. I'm going to die from grief. You already watched my wife die. You guys, under your watch, Joseph is dead somehow. And now you're going to kill Benjamin. And my son Simeon is down in Egypt, and who knows if he's alive. Notice Reuben, the older brother, stepped up in a pretty big way here. Would you offer your 2 kids as a substitute for Simeon and for Benjamin? Let us take Benjamin, and if I don't bring Benjamin back, you get to kill my 2 boys. That's taking some responsibility right there. Reuben's trying to step up as the older brother. Genesis 43, and the famine was sore in the land. And it came to pass when they had eaten up the corn which they had brought out of Egypt, their father said unto them, go again, buy us a little food. And Judah spake unto him, saying, the man did solemnly protest unto us, saying, ye shall not see my face, except your brother be with you. So, Dad, he's not going to let us in without our brother. Look at verse 6. Israel said, wherefore dealt ye so ill with me as to tell the man whether ye had yet a brother? Why couldn't you just keep your big mouths shut? Why couldn't you just buy the corn and come home? Why'd you have to go and run your mouths about my little son who I don't want you to take? And they said, the man asked us straitly of our state and of our kindred, saying, is your father yet alive? Have ye another brother? And we told him according to the tenor of these words. Could we certainly know that he would say, bring your brother down? And Judah said unto Israel his father, send the lad with me, and we will arise and go, that we may live and not die, both we and thou, and also our little ones. I will be surety of him. Of my hand shalt thou require him. If I bring him not unto thee and set him before thee, then let me bear the blame forever. This is interesting right here. If you remember, Judah had these sons. The firstborn was Reuben. Secondborn was Simeon. Thirdborn was Levi. Fourthborn was Judah. Something interesting you should notice. Reuben messed up, if you remember, by sleeping with his father's handmaid, or the concubine. Simeon and Levi are the ones who murdered that whole city of people back in Shechem. Judah, in chapter 38, I think it is, or maybe 39, did all that wickedness with his daughter-in-law Tamar and had that problem. And who does Jesus Christ come through? The Lion of the tribe of Judah. And right here, I'm not positive this is the reason, but right here, Judah shows his true colors. Reuben, at the end of the last chapter, said, if I don't bring Benjamin back, you can kill my 2 boys. Judah didn't offer up his children like a pansy. He said, you take me. I'll bear the blame forever. And Reuben looked a little righteous right there. He looked a little good there for a second, but what kind of a man is he for offering his kids instead of himself? You can kill my kids, but don't touch me.
Yeah.
What kind of a man is that? Judah stepped up. Take me. I'm responsible. You hold me responsible and give me the blame if Benjamin dies under my watch. I'm not positive, but that makes me wonder, is that the reason God allowed Judah to be the Messiah's, great something grandfather? Because he offered him his own self. Verse 11, and their father Israel said unto them, if it must be so now, do this. Take of the best fruits of the land in your vessels, and carry down the man a present, a little balm and a little honey, spices and myrrh, nuts and almonds, and take double money in your hand, and the money that was brought again in the mouth of your sacks, carry it again in your hand, peradventure it was an oversight. And take also your brother, and arise, go again unto the man. And God Almighty give you mercy before the man, that he may send away your other brother and Benjamin. If I be bereaved of my children, I am bereaved. You know what? We're going to die of starvation anyway. I guess take Benjamin. If he dies, he dies. And the men took that present, and they took double money in their hand, and Benjamin, and rose up, and went down to Egypt, and stood before Joseph. And when Joseph saw Benjamin with them, he said to the ruler of his house, bring these men home, and slay, and make ready, for these men shall dine with me at noon. Now, when I was a kid in Sunday school and reading this on my own, I always wondered, these Egyptians, Joseph was the governor. He was the number 2 man in all of Egypt. And if you remember the Pharaoh's proclamation, if you remember what Pharaoh said, basically Pharaoh was sitting around doing whatever he wanted, and Joseph was running the kingdom, the greatest, most powerful kingdom on the planet, which tells me Joseph had plenty of servants around him. I'm sure he had servants left and right, men servants, maid servants, taking care of everything. And these servants knew Joseph really well, and they watched him, and I just always wondered what they thought. These random Jewish little Hebrews come up. For all they know, Joseph is just an Egyptian guy, I guess. Well, they knew he was a Hebrew, I guess, but, these strange Hebrews, these foreigners show up, and these servants see Joseph talking to them, and out of nowhere, Joseph just turns around and starts weeping. What is he doing? And this time, these 11 guys, or 10 guys show up, and Joseph says, hey, go slay some animals. We're going to have a feast at my house with these guys. They're probably wondering, why are you having some random strangers come home? I just always wondered that. I wonder what these servants thought. It must have been very strange for them to see their master behaving so strangely towards these men. Verse 17, and the man did as Joseph bade, and the man brought the men into Joseph's house. And the men were afraid because they were brought into Joseph's house. And they said, because of the money that was returned in our sacks at the first time are we brought in, that he may seek occasion against us and fall upon us and take us for bondmen and our asses. And they came near to the steward of Joseph's house, and they communed with him at the door of the house, and said, O sir, we came indeed down at the first time to buy food. And it came to pass, when we came to the end, that we opened our sacks, and behold, every man's money was in the mouth of his sack, our money in full weight, and we have brought it again in our hand. And other money have we brought down in our hands to buy food. We cannot tell who put the money in our sacks. I don't know how it happened, but the money we paid you was back in our sacks. We don't know. We didn't mean to. And he said, peace be to you. Fear not. Your God and the God of your father hath given you treasure in your sacks. I had your money. And he brought Simeon out unto them. Who are they talking to right here? The steward of Joseph's house, right? Some Egyptian guy. And what does he say? Your God and the God of your father hath given you treasure in your sacks. Joseph had introduced this fellow to God. Joseph had taught this Egyptian guy about his father's God and about his God. This Egyptian steward knew a thing or two because Joseph was faithful, and I'm sure he taught his servants about the one true God. And the man brought the men into Joseph's house and gave them water, and they washed their feet, and he gave their asses provender. And they made ready the present against Joseph came at noon. Uh-oh. What? They made ready the present against Joseph came at noon. Against Joseph came at noon. What in the world does that mean? What do you think that means? Anybody have a guess what that word against means right there? Because that doesn't look like it fits in a sentence, right? What in the world does that mean? Against Joseph came at noon. In the King James Bible, which always defines itself, against means before. Replace that word against with before. Does it make sense? Yeah. They made ready the present against Joseph came at noon. They made ready the present before Joseph came at noon. So, throughout the rest of the Bible, when you see the word against, sometimes it means the way we use it today. Other times, it means before. For I know whom I have believed, and am persuaded that he is able to keep that which I have committed unto him against that day. Before that day, until that day. So sometimes it's before, sometimes it's until. But just to help you out right there, that obviously is talking about before Joseph comes at noon, they made ready the present. There's a little Bible definition for you. For they heard that they should eat bread there. And when Joseph came home, hey, how much Hebrew and dictionary and how much Greek lexicon did we have to use just now? 0. Good. Thank the Lord. And when Joseph came home, they brought him the present which was in their hand into the house and bowed themselves to him to the earth. And he asked them of their welfare. So he asks how they're doing. Is your dad okay? Is he alive? They answered, Thy servant our father is in good health. He is yet alive. And they bowed down their heads and made obeisance. And he lifted up his eyes and saw his brother Benjamin, his mother's son, and said, Is this your younger brother of whom ye spake unto me? And he said, God be gracious unto thee, my son. And Joseph made haste, for his bowels did yearn upon his brother, and he sought where to weep. And he entered into his chamber and wept there. So you guys are the brothers, and here's Joseph. Once again, the servants are sitting here watching this whole thing happen. And he says, Are you Benjamin? Are you the brother they told me about? And this feeling of, my brother's alive. They didn't kill him. My brother, I've wondered for a decade, is he okay? Is he alive? That feeling starts welling up inside of him. Here's what happens. He made haste to his chamber. And he started crying in his bedroom. Can you imagine, just as a servant in the house, what in the world is going on with Joseph? Our master is acting real funny this week. Verse 31, and he washed his face and sent out and refrained himself and said, Set on bread. No servants who just sat there and watched him run into his room and cry like a little girl. All right, we'll set on bread. I mean, continue on like everything's normal. What verse are we in?
32.
Thank you. And they set on for him by himself and for them by themselves. So he set up a table for himself and in another room a table for them. And for the Egyptians which did eat with him by themselves, because the Egyptians might not eat bread with the Hebrews, for that is an abomination unto the Egyptians. No Egyptian would eat with a Jew. There's two things we find out in this whole story that Egyptians will not put up with. One is a shepherd or a farmer. Two, they won't eat with any Jews. It's an abomination to the Egyptians. Which, by the way, you ever wonder why the Lord dealt so harsh with Egyptians? It was a part of their culture and their doctrine that I will never even be near one of those dirty Jews. It's an abomination to me. If somebody says, I'm never going to be near one of those dirty Jews, they're an abomination in my culture. You think God's going to be good to them? No. God's not going to deal well with a nation that considers Jews an abomination. Germany should have taken note. America should take note. You should treat the Jews well. And they sat before him, the firstborn according to his birthright, and the youngest according to his youth. And the men marveled one at another. Wait a second. Why did they marvel? Because Joseph set down meals before them, and I'm sure he might have put up little nameplates or whatever, and he set it up so that it was oldest to youngest. 11 of them. And they went, how did he get us oldest to youngest? How did his servants know which one was older and which one was younger? There's 11.
How do you know?
They marveled. Whoa, how did that happen? And he took and sent messes unto them from before him, but Benjamin's mess was 5 times so much as any of theirs. And they drank and were merry with him. And he commanded the steward of his house, saying, fill the men's sacks with food, as much as they can carry, and put every man's money in his sack's mouth. And put my cup, the silver cup, in the sack's mouth of the youngest, and his corn money. And he did according to the word that Joseph had spoken. And who is the youngest? Benjamin. So he said, put my personal silver cup into Benjamin's sack. As soon as the morning was light, the men were sent away, they and their asses. And when they were gone out of the city, and not yet far off, Joseph said unto his steward, up, follow after the men, and when thou dost overtake them, say unto them, wherefore have you rewarded evil for good? Is not this it in which my Lord drinketh? And whereby indeed he divineth? To divine is to tell a prophecy or to speak with God. To divine something in the Bible is kind of like not witchcraft, but prophesying, seeing into the future, divining. And apparently this cup was that important. Joseph was known in Egypt as the one who can interpret dreams, the one who has the Spirit of God. And this is the cup he uses. He knows it's nothing, but to the Egyptians, that is the cup. I mean, that's Joseph's cup, his magic cup, his divining cup. The cup I drink sweet tea out of. And they said unto him, wherefore saith my Lord these words? God forbid that thy servants should do according to this thing. Behold, the money which we found in our sacks' mouths, we brought it again unto thee out of the land of Canaan. How then should we steal out of thy Lord's house silver or gold? With whomsoever of thy servants it be found, both let him die, and we also will be my Lord's bondmen. He said, now also let it be according unto your words. He with whom it is found shall be my servant, and ye shall be blameless. Then they speedily took down every man his sack to the ground, and opened every man his sack. And he searched and began at the eldest and left at the youngest, and the cup was found in Benjamin's sack. Then they rent their clothes and laded every man his ass, and returned to the city. And Judah and his brethren came to Joseph's house, for he was yet there, and they fell before him on the ground. And Joseph said unto them, what deed is this that ye have done? Wot ye not that such a man as I can certainly divine? Now he's playing a little foolish right here. Don't you know that a man as powerful as me can tell what's going on from far? Don't you think I can discern because I have the Spirit of God? Can divine? Don't you think I can supernaturally know things? Did Joseph know this because of some supernatural power? No. Behind closed doors, he said, stick the cup in the bag. And now he's saying, I am all powerful. Don't you know that I am powerful? Seems like he's having a little too much fun with his brothers here. He's really trying to freak them out.
Doing a good job of it.
Yeah, he is. I'm sorry, I've lost the verse one more time. 16, thanks. And Judah said, what shall we say? What can I say? We've been through so much. What do you want me to say? I don't know. This is weird. Weird stuff keeps happening. I don't know what to say. I'm sorry. What shall we say unto my Lord? What shall we speak? Or how shall we clear ourselves? God hath found out the iniquity of thy servants. Behold, we are my Lord's servants, both we and he also with whom the cup is found. And he said, God forbid that I should do so, but the man in whose hand the cup is found, he shall be my servant. And as for you, get you up in peace unto your father. Then Judah came near unto him and said, O my Lord, let thy servant, I pray thee, speak a word in my Lord's ears, and let not thine anger burn against thy servant, for thou art even as Pharaoh. My Lord asked his servant, saying, have ye a father or brother? And we have said unto my Lord, we have a father, an old man, and a child of his old age, a little one, and his brother is dead, and he alone is left of his mother, and his father loveth him. And thou saidst unto thy servants, bring him down unto me, that I may set mine eyes upon him. And we have said unto my Lord, the lad cannot leave his father, for if he should leave his father would die. And thou saidst unto thy servants, except your youngest brother come down with you, ye shall see my face no more. And it came to pass, when we came up unto thy servant my father, we told him the words of my Lord. And our father said, go again and buy us a little food. And we said, we can't. Look down at verse 29. 31. And it shall come to pass, when he seeth that the lad is not with us, if you keep Benjamin and we go back to our dad, and he sees that the lad is not with us, that he will die. And thy servants shall bring down the gray hairs of thy servant our father with sorrow to the grave. Who is speaking right now? Who's saying this to Joseph? Judah. Judah stepped up to his father and said, I'll take responsibility. And down here, finally, he cuts all the nonsense, he cuts the deceit and the dishonesty, and just tells Joseph plain, we can't do this. If I go back, my father's going to die. Not my neck is on the line, but my dad might die from grief. Judah is really stepping up and being the leader of the brothers. Where's Simeon? Where's Levi? Where's Reuben? Why didn't they speak up? Why aren't they the ones doing the right thing here? For thy servant became surety for the lad unto my father, saying, If I bring him not unto thee, then I shall bear the blame to my father forever. Now therefore, I pray thee, let thy servant abide instead of the lad, a bondman to my lord, and let the lad go up with his brethren. For how shall I go up to my father, and the lad be not with me, lest peradventure I see the evil that shall come upon my father? Then Joseph could not refrain himself before all them that stood by him, and he cried, Cause every man to go out from me. Get servants, you get out of here. Any Egyptians, get out of the room. And there stood no man with him, while Joseph made himself known unto his brethren. And he wept aloud, and the Egyptians in the house of Pharaoh heard. Everybody get out of here. And they stepped out, and one more time they heard it. However, he wept aloud. These Egyptians are thinking, something really, really, really strange is going on with Joseph. And Joseph said unto his brethren, I am Joseph. Doth my father yet live? Hold on. He's been speaking Spanish this whole time, and he just spoke English. What? I am Joseph. The first words out of his mouth to them in Hebrew. I am Joseph. We never said our brother's name. We never said Joseph's name, did we? How did he know his name was Joseph? Is this guy just pulling our leg? Can he really divine? What's going on here? I am Joseph, your brother, whom ye sold into Egypt. Now therefore be not grieved. Well, I skipped a little bit. His brethren could not answer him in verse 3, for they were troubled at his presence. And Joseph said unto his brethren, Come near to me, I pray you. And they came near, and he said, I am Joseph, your brother, whom ye sold into Egypt. Now therefore be not grieved, nor angry with yourselves that ye sold me hither. For God did send me before you to preserve life. Here's a couple really good lessons for us right there. First of all, he could have been a jerk to his brothers. He could have been a real rotten, and he might have been right in rebuking them right there. But instead, he says, don't worry about it. Listen, God sent me into Egypt. Not you guys. You didn't sell me into Egypt. God sent me here. And here's the reason, to preserve life. He sent me here so that I would interpret the dream and so that there would be food right now so you guys don't die of starvation. The Lord knew what was coming and he prepared for it. And this is such a good attitude to have. When bad things happen to you that you think of as bad, and I don't know if you've ever had a bad day, none of you have had a day worse than Joseph, where you get cast into a pit by your brethren, your dad gets told you're dead, and you get sold into some foreign country. Has anybody had a worse day than that as a 17-year-old boy? No, and his heart attitude was not, every day while he was in Egypt, he wasn't sitting there thinking, my stupid brethren, those stupid traitors, those rotten dummies. He wasn't sitting there being bitter against his brothers the whole time. He accepted that this is of the Lord. The Lord has caused this. The Lord did this. And because the Lord did this, I'm okay with it. And that ought to be the attitude you have. You ought to understand that everything that happens to you because the Lord allowed it. And you shouldn't get bitter at Peter or Jane or Michael or whoever it is that did something wrong to you. Just accept the Lord wanted that wrong done to me, and he'll bring something good out of it. All things work together for good to them that love God, to them who are the called according to his purpose. It's a great attitude to have. God did send me before you to preserve life. Verse 6, for these 2 years hath the famine been in the land, and yet there are 5 years in the which there shall neither be earing nor harvest. And God sent me before you to preserve you a posterity in the earth, and to save your lives by a great deliverance. So now it was not you that sent me hither, but God. And he hath made me a father to Pharaoh, the Lord and Lord of all his house, and a ruler throughout all the land of Egypt. Haste ye, and go up to my father, and say unto him, Thus saith thy son Joseph, God hath made me Lord of all Egypt. Come down unto me, tarry not. And thou shalt dwell in the land of Goshen. And thou shalt be near unto me, thou and thy children, and thy children's children, and thy flocks, and thy herds, and all that thou hast. And there will I nourish thee. For yet there are 5 years of famine, lest thou and thy household and all that thou hast come to poverty. And behold, your eyes see, and the eyes of my brother Benjamin, that it is my mouth that speaketh unto you. And ye shall tell my father of all my glory in Egypt, and of all that ye have seen, and ye shall haste and bring down my father hither. And he fell upon his brother Benjamin's neck and wept, and Benjamin wept upon his neck. Now, I don't know how old Benjamin is here. He was probably just a little baby when Joseph got sold, and now he's probably, I don't know how long it's been exactly, at least 10 years, I think. I'm trying to remember from the story before, but probably around 10 years. So his little baby brother who used to be a baby, and Benjamin his whole life has probably heard stories of his brother Joseph and how he died that one day, and it's probably something when anybody came over and, oh, you remember old Joseph? The house probably got real quiet, and Benjamin wondered about his older brother, and his dad probably told him stories of how he loved his son so much, and finally Benjamin gets to meet this brother who he thought was dead, and they're weeping together. It's a sweet, sweet, sweet homecoming. Moreover, he kissed all his brethren and wept upon them, and after that his brethren talked with him. And the fame thereof was heard in Pharaoh's house, saying, Joseph's brethren are come. And it pleased Pharaoh well, and his servants. And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, Say unto thy brethren, This do ye, lade your beasts, and go, get you unto the land of Canaan, up unto the land of Canaan, and I will give you the good of the land of Egypt, and ye shall eat the fat of the land. Now thou art commanded, this do ye, take you wagons out of the land of Egypt for your little ones, and for your wives, and bring your father, and come. Also, regard not your stuff, for the good of all the land of Egypt is yours. The most powerful, wealthiest nation on the planet. You guys are going to be provided for. You'll be given free welfare. I'll take care of you. Don't worry about it. You get the best of the land. To all of them, verse 21, and the children of Israel did so, and Joseph gave them wagons according to the commandment of Pharaoh, and gave them provision for the way. To all of them he gave each man changes of raiment, but to Benjamin he gave 300 pieces of silver and 5 changes of raiment. I haven't thought about it yet, but 300 pieces of silver. Joseph got sold for 20. You remember that?
Yep.
That's 15 times what he got sold for. 300 pieces of silver and 5 changes of raiment. And to his father he sent after this manner, 10 asses laden with the good things of Egypt, and 10 she-asses laden with corn and bread, and meat for his father by the way. So he sent his brethren away, and they departed, and he said unto them, See that ye fall not out by the way. And they went up out of Egypt, and came into the land of Canaan unto Jacob their father, and he told him, saying, Joseph is yet alive, and he is governor over all the land of Egypt. And Jacob's heart fainted, for he believed them not. And they told him all the words of Joseph, which he had said unto them. And when he saw the wagons which Joseph had sent to carry him, the spirit of Jacob their father revived. His heart fainted, and then his spirit revived. And Israel said, It is enough. I heard enough. Joseph my son is yet alive. I will go and see him before I die. Oh, my son's alive. My boy's alive. And you think he sat there another day and watched TV and watched Price is Right for another 3 hours?
Nope.
He was gone. I mean, come on, guys, pack up. What are you guys waiting for? Let's go. Let's go see Joseph. Chapter 46, verse 1. And Israel took his journey with all that he had, and came to Beersheba, and offered sacrifices unto the God of his father Isaac. We'll get into chapter 46 next time, Lord willing. The first thing he does, pack up shop, let's go. And he stops real quick at an old familiar place called Beersheba. I don't know if you have a place where you've ever met with the Lord, but it's sweet to go back to a place where you meet with the Lord when he does something good for you, like tell you your son's alive. After all these years, your son's alive. He didn't just get up and go straight to Joseph. First thing, he got up and he went and he gave a sacrifice and praised and thanked God. Don't forget to thank God when he gives you something wonderful like that.
Amen.
Do we have any questions about this lesson? I know that one was more reading than anything, but I just can't skip over all of it. It's important to the story, and these lessons that he's teaching are important for us to